listening to
Split the Defense.
LEAFS Postgame Edition.
Split the Defense.
Is presented by the Forest Electrical Contractors. Professional and efficient service since 2004. Serving the Kingston and surrounding areas. Alongside co-host Craig Pearce and producer Ted Evans, here's your host, Jordan Webster.
What's up, boys? Welcome to Split the Defense. Everybody listening, what a game did we just witness? We are here to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs facing the Winnipeg Jets. They just pulled off an overtime thriller. My heart, boys, my heart is just pumping right now. I am all about the high-scoring games, but this one was exciting, I'm telling you. Before we get into this, please take a second, drop a like on this episode, subscribe to our YouTube, and rate it 5 stars on whatever podcasting platform you may be consuming from. The breakdown in this game goes to overtime. Matthews tips it in. Leafs win 1-0. What a sick game. Man, my pregame thoughts on this was this home-and-home series will be the thing that sways my opinion on if this Leafs team is good enough to hang with a good team. They've been playing like shit. Like, let's just be honest. They haven't been playing good. And this is a rivalry team, right? This is a Canadian team. This has been built up since the Canadian division. If they don't show up to this game, then you can't expect them to ever show up. And, like, I mean, I know that they got outshot. I know, but they hung around. I am straight up here to say I am not disappointed with the game that they played tonight. At the end of it all came out in the wash. And even if they lost, what a heck of a game. I have lots of complaining to do still, but I'm very thrilled with the game. What are your initial reactions to this game, CP?
I mean, definitely not as thrilled as you are, but I mean, glad they got the win. That's for sure. I mean, they just very little effort. I kind of felt like there was a bunch of our best players were our worst players tonight, and so it was nice that Matthews ended up getting the game winner because I mean he hadn't done a whole lot before that, and he'd been benched previously in the game. But yeah, I mean, definitely a good 2 points. Like you said, like coming up into this game, expecting it to be kind of a test. You're really going to see where you match up with a really good team, but they end up like they're missing 3 of their best players. Shifley, Velarde, and Morrissey. All end up not being in this game. Like Morrissey, I guess, started it, but out very quickly. So it's not quite the measuring stick game that we anticipated. Shifley was potentially going to be back tonight, but we'll see kind of what they see next game. But just, I mean, at this point, we just need wins. So very happy to get the win. Like I'm standing watching way more than I was a month ago. So, yeah, good to put 2 points on the board.
So what I'm getting from you is you're just happy for the win. Not too thrilled, not too upset, kind of neutral on this.
Definitely, I'm happy about a few things, and we'll get into those. But as far as the entire effort of the team, I thought wasn't the greatest. But I mean, as far as a few standout players, there's definitely those for sure.
Oh, okay, well let's start out with obviously the number one standout player. Sammy gets his first back-to-back start in a while, right?
Yeah.
The guy makes 2 10-bell saves in the first 7 shots. He gets a standing ovation from the crowd in the second period. He's on fire tonight. Ilya Samsonov, this is a tweet from Luke Fox. Ilya Samsonov had the same number of saves in one period against the Winnipeg Jets as his entire game against the Kraken, which was 16. That's crazy.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. That's crazy.
We had the Leafs giving up 2-on-1s like Halloween candy, and the Jets were trick-or-treaters. You had shots were 21-6 early in the second. Save after save, he was bailing them out. And they were down a man at that point. Josh Morrissey had left, as you mentioned. So, it's not just they had an injured guy. They were literally dressed a skater short.
Right. Yeah.
And, so before I get into this, Sheldon Keefe said that Joseph Woll is progressing and that when he comes back after the All-Star game, there's no rush to get him back, right? It's not imminent, I think, were the words used. But Kipper made a point the other day that even when Joseph Woll does come back, it's a high ankle sprain. He's not going to come back right away and play. exactly the way he did before. He's going to take time. He's going to practice. And even when he does come back, we have to accept he may not be the same version of himself. So what I'd like to know is how long before Sammy wins this net back, or has he already done that? Is this more of a test? This why he's getting the options? Like, do you think he plays again in Winnipeg on Saturday? When is this time, and how long before the test run turns into Sammy getting the net back?
I mean, I guess it depends what you mean of getting the net back. Because I think that when Joseph Wall comes back, like it is his net. And like you said, like it's a weird injury. So it's regardless probably going to be a 50-50 split as far as playing time, just to get him back into the groove. But like most NHL coaches believe that you never lose your position due to an injury. And so I think he gets slotted right back in. Like Samsonov is battling for the backup spot. And then once Wall is back, then you can have like that discussion of like, which goalie's playing better at that point. But he definitely, the only reason he's getting this shot is because his ceiling is probably higher than all three goalies. When he plays his best, he's one of the best goalies in the league. When he plays his worst, he's one of the worst goalies I've ever seen play net in the NHL. So it's just one of those like really drastic differences between his ceiling and floor. And the thing we love about Joseph Wall is that from what we've seen so far, that his floor and ceiling are pretty close together. And like, that's what you want from a goalie. And so I think like,
Ideally.
I'm still looking forward to seeing that consistency back with Wall. But tonight, I mean, Samsonov he stole the show. There's no question. Like the one where he was a 2-on-0 when the Leafs were on a power play
Yeah,
and he
that's
makes
terrible.
3 saves. Like, I couldn't believe that. Absolutely unreal. And that's the Sammy that like we're so impressed with, like when he is at his best. And then like, I'm not sure Jones, like Martin Jones, I'm sure has like a decent highlight reel, but I would bet that like Samsonov probably in his young career might outdo Jones in his entire career. He's just that kind of like an athletic goalie. So, I mean, he's like, it's really hard to say like that, I'm back on to, it's a test to see if he can be the starter, but like amazing to see that this guy is just having like one of the biggest bounce backs as a goalie. It's really tough to turn around when you like being a goaltender is like, in my opinion, like 50% confidence. And if you don't have that,
Maybe
then
more.
like, yeah, it could be more. And if you don't have that, you're like, a fish out of water basically. And that's what we've seen from him. And he just looks like he has his head on straight. I don't know, like if something's changed in his life, it was just the 1 week break, a different mentality maybe, like from getting his starting positions kind of stolen from him at the beginning of the year to now like having a new mindset of like a new goal. It's not about holding a starting position. It's about chasing as many starts as you can. And one thing that I've heard about him that in his own mindset is that he's excited to play and he wants starts. And wasn't the case when he was playing at his worst. Like he was afraid to get his name written on the board to be the starter that night. And so that's the biggest difference to me. Like if a guy has changed his mindset, like that's a huge difference. And we need to see more. And so I would love to see him play the next game as well. Like, I don't think that and then you get a break after that. So yes, he's playing 3 in a row, but he's had so much time off and you get a big long break. So yeah, I would go with him again. And it's not like Martin Jones was playing at his best out of the last few games we saw him. So, I mean, and I think he's always going to be what he's going to be. He's a goalie that can fill in, as like a journeyman here and there. And worst case scenario, he can be a starting goalie. But I don't think you want to expect more from him. Where Samsonov, like, if you catch him on one of his high waves, like, you're getting an outstanding goalie. You just have to make sure that you're on the top of the wave and not at the bottom of the wave.
Yeah, no, that's a fair assessment. I hope he does get the next game too. He's looked good the last couple of games. I had to ask because we were both skeptical about Samsonov being the one to go back down to the minors. But at this point, I don't think that he could be the guy to go back down to the minors. I think it's really at this point in time today when we make this show, it's unknown We do not know whether Ilya Samsonov is going to still be good in 2 weeks or not, and that is kind of the thing that we have to watch and wait. The crazy thing is we have All-Star Weekend coming up, time off. It's going to be a slow next couple of weeks for the Leafs, so, the trade deadline's not getting further away. It's getting closer every day. So he's going to have to prove himself sooner or later because they are going to have to make a decision.
There's also there's a scenario here where I think neither goalie gets sent down as well until any big trade is made. Like there's no cap crunch going on here, so you can easily keep them all three. And if there's a scenario where you want to ease Wall in, you'd probably, if you don't want him to be the starter, like you probably don't want him to be the backup either. Because if he has to fill in and he's not feeling 100%, like you don't want to put that on a new injury. So I think there's a scenario where there's kind of a rotation of three goalies, which I'm not a huge fan of. It doesn't seem to go well, but every team is afraid of sending a goalie through waivers at this point. I think like Samsonov might not make it through a second time now, and I don't think Jones would at all. So I think like you have to hold until you like have a really clear plan. And thankfully that Jones has a really low contract, so it's not a big thing. And then you have to make a decision sometime. But I would bet that they hold off on that decision for quite some time.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's very possible. Speaking of guys that have to go down, like we have Bertuzzi on paternity leave right now. Ryan Reeves has been activated, right?
Yeah.
And when Bertuzzi, this is from Kevin Papetti, who's really smart with this stuff. He says the Leafs will need to make a cut when Bertuzzi returns. Reeves, Lagesson, McMahon, or Greiger would require waivers. Nyes, Holmberg, or Robertson would not. So in that instance where you keep a goalie and you have to, because you have so many players on the active roster, how does that work? If you're going to have Reeves, you're going to have to send both Robertson and Holmberg down in order to keep. There's got to be a trade coming before trade deadline. Do you not see something happening here? Because there's just the puzzle pieces don't fit if you try to put them all in together right now. Something's missing. And I think there's no possible way that you're going to put Holmberg and Robertson back down in the AHL right now. They work really well. And you don't want to get like a Reeves. Maybe you could waive him, but I don't know, just for the roster spot. But Lagesson, I think you'd lose him. McMahon, I don't know. You might be able to get through. You might be able to get him down. Greiger, I think you'd lose him.
I don't think you would.
You don't think you'd lose Greiger?
No, I don't. He hasn't been playing. Like, if you look at his numbers, they're not anything that a team really wants to take. Like, I guess if someone had a free roster spot and no NHL player to fill it, but his numbers aren't jumping off the page, and his play, it hasn't been as noticeable, at least in my opinion.
He could be given a better opportunity though. He's been playing with David Kampf.
Yeah,
he clearly is more offensive minded than the guys he's being paired with. You can see that in his play, and I don't know. I just think maybe somebody take a shot on one of those guys. So then you're looking at, because you're trying to keep a third goalie. Now you have to look at sending two of those guys down. Either way, we have to send one of these guys down. So who goes?
I mean, currently, you mean when Bertuzzi comes back, we have to send one down, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably Holmberg, I think. Just based on the spot.
So good.
Yes, you are right. And he doesn't deserve it. It's just a matter of the scenario. And I think you have that conversation with him and said, you haven't not earned your spot up here, but you are in this bottom group. We got to send someone down, and I think he would be the guy. The other scenario, and I'm not sure, Reeves has been pretty vocal, or, well, I shouldn't say, he's come out and said a couple things about, basically he's good to go. And I don't think he wants to be sitting. He's not looking like he wants to sit in the press box for 3 years here. So I don't know if maybe there's been some conversations. We don't know how those go inside the room. So I would be totally okay with, if the relationship is spoiled, then I don't care if you send him through waivers, because is he just going to get more upset? Hopefully someone takes him. That would be best case.
So here, I had a theory on this before you get too far into your thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last week or the week before, Sheldon Keefe made a comment saying that they didn't play Ilya Samsonov after they brought him back and activated him on purpose to make him hungry. Okay?
Yeah. I like this theory.
Ryan
Keep going.
Reeves is a big personality. Ryan Reeves has the swagger of swagger. You need to tame that beast. Maybe all of this shit that they've been putting him through is a tactic to fire him up and try and get the most out of him when he does come back. And they don't need him right now, right? And maybe they want to give him another test to see if he's usable at some point, because he might be usable for a game here and there in the playoffs if things get rough and tough, or if injuries come, or depending on the matchup too, right? Who knows? Who knows? But the way that he played before, if he plays like Ryan Reeves' first 2 games, he's usable. If he doesn't, then he's not. But I wonder if Sheldon Keefe is possibly keeping him out to give him that hunger to want to come back and play like the first 2 games, Ryan Reeves, and see what they have. Do you think I'm crazy on that one, or like?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I agree 100% with half of it, where I think that it would, like, he is going to come out more hungry. There's no question. Like, this is a guy who wants to be in the lineup, and he's going to come out with something to prove. He now knows that his spot isn't locked in like it kind of was before he got injured. Like, I guess he got scratched a couple times, but right before he got injured. But I'm not so sure it's necessarily a tactic, because like he's not one of like the best 12 forwards. So I think that we're just going with our best lineup right now. But that just is creating, though, the scenario
but
you're talking about.
But you could toss him in every now and again, right? And I wonder if they're keeping him out on purpose just to piss him off a little more and make him a little hungrier.
I think Keefe is too hungry for wins to just toss him in once in a while at the moment. In regular time, if you're like, winning at least half your games, then yeah, like I could see him doing that. Or if there's just zero talk about Keefe being fired. But Keefe's going with his best lineup. He's playing the guys that he thinks are going to win on the night, whether it's Matthews and Marner or if it's, Domi and Robertson. They're the kind of like, he's just going with the win. And it's one of his biggest flaws, I think, as a coach. He forgets about like the 82 game part, and that like playoffs take a long time, and and that's why like we get line shuffles that don't really mean anything as far as experimenting, other than like just trying to get a win in the moment or punishing a group or whatever. So yeah, like I think he's too hungry for just throwing Reeves in there, but it might actually be beneficial because you're not getting a ton out of Gregor or McMahon. So, whichever one, I don't care. Throw him in there. And yeah, like he's probably going to go out and, he might get suspended, but just by demolishing some guys. But, that also wouldn't be a bad thing. So,
no, you're not wrong. Okay, so Toronto gets 5 power plays before the refs start calling literally anything on the Leafs for the Jets. 5 power plays. Now, that first part is unheard of. The second part of that is I don't want to sit here and just shit on the refs. I don't want to. But the Nylander boarding call? Okay. All right, maybe. Okay. The Yarncroak tripping one? I'm like, oh, fuck. That was bad. These are ticky-tacky fucking calls. That was not... What?
That's a trip
no
when
way.
you've had 5 power plays and they've had none.
No way.
Yeah, it is.
That's not a trip in any other game, though. That's not right. I thought that. Whatever.
I think the shocking thing is that the Leafs didn't do anything to get a penalty in the first, like 50 minutes of gameplay. Like if you're not getting any penalties, you're probably not playing right as a group. Like you're probably not fiery enough or feisty enough, but. Like, that's just, I don't know, like, I'm not against it was happened to us once this season where I think it was Boston had 4 power plays and we had none. But like, and I was kind of upset because, I was like, there was nothing, so like, I'm trying to think that way. Like, there had to have been something called the other way. Like, I know maybe not a high stick but it's one of those where you're right at the end, like, they're going to call basically anything when it comes down to the last 5 minutes, and it's that offset, and the coach is now yelling at you about it being that way, and they're kind of they were yelling when it was 3-0 basically, and then the refs are like they have no choice but to call 2 more penalties because they're so blatant on the Jets. So now it's 5-0, and I mean, I knew something was coming. I think everyone did. There's no way. Like the refs are so unreliable.
Sad though.
I know. Yeah, you're
So
right.
sad.
It's the worst. I mean, if that was in baseball and an umpire there's called too many strikes one way and he just had to call a strike like a foot out of the box just cuz, like, the world would erupt, you know? Like that's
It happens.
yeah. I mean, there's bad umpires too. Yeah. A few in particular.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought that was ticky-tacky and silly. So there was lots of Winnipeg Jets fans there tonight. Did you not notice that? The beginning of the game, I didn't even realize that this was the Toronto home game because it's the True North, strong and free. I'm like, what is that? When I realized we were at home, I'm like, okay, so I may be wrong, but this is kind of unprecedented. Like, you do not see anybody come in and take over the Leafs barn. That doesn't happen. Leafs take over other people's barns, but like, even I don't know. Maybe the Habs could do that.
Buffalo at a time, I think, might have done that.
Maybe Buffalo at a time.
Yeah,
not in my viewing chip lifetime.
Yeah,
but
I was shocked.
Unreal.
I did the same thing as you.
Too.
When they did the True North, I was just like, wait a sec. Like, I thought we were home first. Like, and then like the first pan across like the ice, I was just like, wow, that's pretty crazy. And actually, the building was like like it was the traditional, like, you know, Wednesday night. All of the businessmen are there, but they haven't shown up to their seat yet. They're like, it was a library in that building for a solid, like, you know, 15 minutes, and the seats filled in. But I know it's a quiet building, but tonight was kind of embarrassing. Like you said, the Jets fans were there. I think that just proves that, like, we have kind of a built rivalry with Winnipeg. Like, any Jets fan in the surrounding area apparently showed up to this game. So yeah, I don't know. It was kind of shocking. A little bit of taste of our own medicine in a sense.
At least it made for a tense game, though.
Yeah, it was a tense game. Like, I didn't feel like the players thought it was a tense game. Like, I felt it as a fan, but like, I didn't see a lot of urgency out there. That's like, I don't know. I felt like the players, like, kind of were checked out at points of this, and I don't know. They were also like Adam Lowry is actually a super underrated defensive defenseman. He plays very hard and gets tough minutes, and he did a good job tonight. But yeah, tense game as fans, and in the building felt tense, especially at the end. And, you know, Sammy's standing on his head protecting a lead, and Nick Robertson's our best forward. It's just like, you know, yeah, it's tense in there. But yeah, I wanted to feel more from the team, that's for sure. But yeah.
So, talk about feeling more from the team. I think this is my last point I got here. Shots were 21-6 early in the second, as we touched on.
Yeah.
And halfway through the third period, the Leafs had tied it up. So, you said earlier that you had some good, you had some bad. You can kind of take it from here and lead where we're going to go. Were you impressed with the effort from the team tonight coming back? Or were you disappointed because they didn't start well? And I mean, like, it's not necessarily a bad start, just a chance of the shots. What was your full opinion? And you can go ahead with what else you got after that.
My full opinion is just that, like, they lucked into one in a sense here tonight. I feel like if Winnipeg had just a little bit better of a power play, you know, we would have lost. And we definitely are struggling on the power play too, so that can go both ways. But I was just kind of underwhelmed, and I feel like I'm happy for the 2 points, but basically I think that they lucked into it. But my next point is Nick Robertson is like, he's really earning himself an actual spot on this lineup. And I forgot to bring in all my notes, so I don't have anything written down. But Sheldon Keefe, his quote, I think, was that I loved every minute of his last game. And then tonight he comes out and like I said, he was legit the best forward out there. He got the most opportunities. Like, I think the Leafs had like 3 high danger chances all night, and I think he had 2 of them at least. Really, he's displaying his shot more, but he's kind of getting unlucky in a way. Like, he's surprising goalies; they're just not going in. And so like I wouldn't be surprised if we catch him on the top line next game because no one else has really been impressing. We're kind of in
He
a
looks
spot.
good with Matthews. He looks
Yeah,
good with Matthews, doesn't
he
he?
played yeah, he does. He looked good altogether tonight. Like even on the very last play, he makes the turnover, steals the puck in their own end, and he's the second assist on the game-winning goal. So and the important assist, like not that Riley didn't have to do anything good, but like he did the work there. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's up on the top line. And even if Bertuzzi comes back, like I don't know what the lines are gonna look like. And the Holmberg thing, like you said, he might be the one to go. Maybe he's not. Like Keefe loves him too. So I don't know. That'll be a tricky situation, but I want more from Robertson now. Like I know that he's definitely underwhelmed in certain spots, but he's doing all the small things correctly now, and that's what we were yelling at him for. So if he's not necessarily cashing in, then that's no big deal. But if you compare him to the other left wingers on this team, like who is impressing? No one's impressing. So I saw it on the broadcast tonight. Like he has the second most amount of goals, but like the least amount of minutes by far. Like I think that Nyes and Bertuzzi were like well above 500 minutes, and he's like just cracking 200, but yet is sitting with them with production. So like no one's yelling at us to take that spot. Like teams before, we always had like the Hyman. He comes in and steals the show. Bunting, like there's no question he was the guy for that spot. There's no guy. So just a couple of good games from Robertson, and I wouldn't be shocked to see it, and I wouldn't hate it either. So.
What do you guys think about the comment we got from Chance just before your rant there, CP? If the Jets had their whole lineup and their big guy in net, he said they would have killed the Leafs, and terrible effort. Any truth to that?
I can't agree with the Connor Hellebuck thing because like it was a shutout going into the end, and then it's a wide open, and a wide open opportunity with Matthews in front. Like not necessarily that Hellebuck's gonna save that, but the rest of the lineup part of it, I do agree with. Like there's an argument that like their best, I mean, Hellebuck's their best player, but their best skater wasn't in the game tonight in Scheifele. And like Morrissey, or maybe Morrissey's their best skater, actually. He probably is. Definitely their best forward and defenseman. So yeah, there's some truth to that. And like Kyle Connor is a guy who didn't do much tonight, which he's missing his favorite centerman in Scheifele. So they're kind of a duo that I think I would be scared of based on Matthews Marner line not dominating. Like if they had their best threat out there, then that would be probably a different game. But I'm gonna take the 2 points and go to bed because what else can I ask for, basically?
Right?
Yeah, no, totally fair. Just to touch back on that Robertson thing, just before we get out of here. So Robertson, he sat out, and this is like the most amount of games, or at least the furthest into the season Robertson has made it into his professional career, right? Because he's always gotten hurt. Yeah. So he's always felt like he had to fight, right, to get his spot in the lineup, and he has been fighting, and I'm sure he understands that he's waivers exempt, so he can go down.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is now Robertson, after sitting a few weeks and not just immediately getting sent down, like settling in and saying, "Hey, maybe it's time that I can actually play this game and figure this out in this spot on this team instead of getting shipped here and then to the hospital and then back to the minor leagues and then back to the hospital." And like, do you not think that a lot of Robertson's good play lately has come with him taking that time to see that he's not necessarily going anywhere and that they're not in a rush to move on from him?
Maybe. I mean, there's a chance of that. Like there's always just being more comfortable as a guy who's on the team and not being sent down. Like you settle in, you make friends a little bit more, you get more comfortable. There is something to that for sure. There's also part of it where like he's just doing the right things more. So it could also just be like a little bit of studying, like watching from above, seeing the things that your coach really likes to see and doing those. And he's always had good effort too. Like no one's ever questioned how much he wants this and his effort on the ice. But sometimes like that's not the most important thing. Like, you can't just skate around there like a little water bug and go anywhere, do whatever you want. You know, it's like, that's never going to work. But when you put the two things together, that makes like a player that you can just rely on and where you can just throw out. And so maybe it's just learning, like, his place maybe isn't just as a goal scorer, you know, pay attention to those other things. So there's probably a learning curve going on here with Robertson as well. Like, just like you said, like, he's playing more hockey, but like in the building more, you know, like he's around NHL practices more. All these things that I think are compiling into, like, potentially we're moving in the right direction after such a long time of frustration with this player and this fan base. But at the same time, like, we're always rushing guys like this. In another, you know, city, this might just be a guy that, like, we've hardly talked about. And now he's coming up, and we weren't complaining that he didn't have production at the beginning of the year. And now we see a couple games, and we're like, wow, this could be a guy. So, like, you know, if in another city, this guy's probably
hasn't
getting,
he
like,
done that? Hasn't he done that every time he's come up and then just kind of disappointed again? So
yeah, I guess so. But we just, like, it wouldn't have been such a big deal, and maybe we would be making a bigger deal of him because we haven't done it 4 times previously, you know. So I think everyone's kind of holding their breath on him.
Yeah, I for sure am. So what else you got there, CP?
Like I said, I don't have any notes, so I don't know. I think I'm done.
All right. Well, that was a good game, man. I'm happy with it. I think we're overall just happy with it. Well, what'd you think of the game, producer Ted?
Tense.
Didn't
Intense.
watch a fucking second, he says.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Appreciate you for
I was
being here, though,
sleeping.
buddy. We love you. So yeah, just to recap, Leafs win 1-0 in overtime against the Winnipeg Jets, and the Leafs did not get shut out. How about that stream pickup tonight for you, Ted, in fantasy hockey?
Which one?
Laurent Boissard?
I didn't know. That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
Oh, that wasn't you?
I
I thought.
no.
I thought it was. I was shitting my
Someone
pants all
did,
night.
then.
Well, that's good. That's good. I thought it was. Anyways, that's all I have. So we will be back when the Winnipeg Jets play the Toronto Maple Leafs again, but they are at home this time. And this is probably going to be a high-scoring game if I know anything about hockey, because this last one wasn't. It could be high-scoring for just one team, though. We'll have to wait till Saturday to find out. Oh, look at this, CP, zooming in on you. That's cool. All right, for now, that's a wrap. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thank you for commenting. Hit that like button. Subscribe on YouTube. Rate us 5 stars anywhere else. And if you really like us, feel free to leave us a review. Find us on X at STDP Hockey and search for Split the Defense on all other socials. Until next time, peace.
Peace.
You've been listening to
Split the Defense.
Leafs Postgame Edition. Hosted by Jordan Webster, Craig Pearce, and producer Ted Evans.
Split the Defense.
Is presented by LaForest Electrical Contractors. Professional and efficient service since 2004. Serving the Kingston and surrounding areas.